Hey, my name's Evan Harper. I'm 26, and I live alone in a small house on the outskirts of Fairview, Ohio. It's not much, just one bedroom, a cramped kitchen, and a living room with an old sofa that's seen better days and a bookshelf crammed with paperbacks I've collected over the years. I work at a local auto shop, fixing engines and changing tires. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me busy. Most days I come home, heat up something simple for dinner, and tinker with my guitar or read until I fall asleep. Life's quiet, predictable, and that's how I like it. No drama, no complications. That Sunday night started out like any other. The sky had been gray all day, and by evening, a heavy rain was pounding against the roof. I was in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the floor with my old acoustic guitar across my lap. The strings were frayed, so I was restringing it, focusing on the task to drown out the world. Neil Young's Heart of Gold played softly from my phone on the coffee table, the melody mixing with the steady rhythm of the rain. It was soothing, almost meditative. I didn't have plans, no friends calling, no places to be. Just me and the storm outside. Then, through the music and the downpour, I heard it. Voices raised in anger from next door. It wasn't the first time. I'd caught snippets before, muffled arguments that drifted through the thin walls between our houses. The neighbors were Sophie Matthews and her husband, Dave. I'd seen Sophie around the neighborhood. She was in her early 40s, I guessed, with a kind smile she'd flash when we passed each other getting the mail or walking to our cars. She had this quiet grace about her, always dressed neatly, like she was trying to hold everything together. Dave was different. Big guy, broad shoulders, the type who looked like he worked construction or something manual. He didn't talk much, but his voice carried when he was mad, heavy and edged with frustration. Tonight, though, it was louder than usual. The rain made it hard to make out every word, but the tone was clear, raw, escalating fury. "You don't trust me!" Sophie's voice cut through, high and strained. "Why are you doing this, Dave? I haven't done anything wrong." His response was a low growl, something about lies and suspicion, followed by more shouting. There was crashing, maybe a chair or a door slamming. And then Sophie's sobs, sharp and heartbreaking. I paused, my hands still on the guitar strings, debating whether to do something. Call the cops? Knock on their door? But I'd always stayed out of it before. People have their problems, right? Who was I to interfere? I stood up, guitar in hand, and moved to the window to close the curtains, hoping to block out the noise. That's when I heard the front door of their house burst open with a bang that echoed even over the rain. Footsteps splashed through puddles, hurried and desperate. I peeked out, and there she was, Sophie, bolting from her porch into the storm. She had a small duffel bag slung over her shoulder, her hair plastered to her face by the water, clothes soaked through in seconds. She looked lost, frantic, like she was running without a destination. She stopped abruptly on my porch, right under the dim light by my door. Her chest heaved and she wiped rain from her eyes, glancing back at her house as if expecting Dave to follow. He didn't. Instead, she turned to my door and knocked. 3 quick raps, urgent but not pounding. I froze for a second, heart picking up speed. What was going on? I set the guitar down and walked over, flipping on the porch light before opening the door a crack. "Sophie?" I said, my voice barely above the rain. She looked up at me, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed from crying. Water streamed down her cheeks, mixing with tears. Her lips trembled as she spoke, her voice breaking. "Evan, can I sleep in your bed tonight?" The words hit me like a punch. I blinked, not sure I'd heard right. Sleep in my bed? We weren't friends, not really. We'd exchanged hellos, maybe small talk about the weather or the neighborhood watch meetings, but that was it. She was married, older than me by at least a decade, and here she was, standing in the rain, asking something so intimate, so vulnerable. My mind raced. Was she hurt? Running from him? I glanced past her toward their house, but the door was shut, lights still on inside. I stammered, opening the door wider instinctively. The cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of wet earth. She looked so small out there, shivering, her bag clutched like a lifeline. Compassion overrode my confusion. "I only have one bed, Sophie. If you don't mind, you can take it. I'll crash on the sofa." She bit her lip, hesitating, then nodded quickly. "I'm sorry, I just..." I don't know where else to go. I need somewhere safe just for tonight. Safe. That word stuck with me. I stepped aside, gesturing her in. Come on, get out of the rain. She crossed the threshold, dripping water onto the welcome mat, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the night had finally caught up. I closed the door behind her, the lock clicking into place. The house felt different already, smaller, warmer, charged with something unspoken. She stood there in the entryway, arms wrapped around herself, eyes darting around like she was second-guessing everything. Here, I said, grabbing a clean towel from the hall closet and handing it to her. Dry off. Bathroom's down the hall if you want to change. I'll make some tea or something. She took the towel, murmuring a thank you, her voice barely audible. As she headed to the bathroom, I busied myself in the kitchen, filling the kettle and trying to process what had just happened. Sophie Matthews was in my house, asking to stay the night. From the fragments I'd overheard over the months, their marriage sounded rocky. Fights about money, trust, the usual strains, but this felt like a breaking point. When she emerged a few minutes later, towel drying her hair, she looked even more fragile. Evan, really, I'm sorry for barging in like this. It's just, tonight was bad, worse than usual. Don't apologize, I replied, pouring hot water into 2 mugs. Sit down. You look like you could use this. She sank into a chair at the kitchen table, wrapping her hands around the mug as steam rose. For a moment, we just sat there, the rain a constant drum outside. I didn't push her to talk, it wasn't my place. But as the silence stretched, I realized something. From this moment on, I wasn't just the quiet guy next door anymore. Something real, something heavy had walked through my door with her. And whether I was ready or not, it was here to stay. She sat there for a moment, clutching the mug as if it were anchoring her to the spot. The steam curled up between us, filling the small kitchen with the faint scent of chamomile. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to ask what had happened, to understand why she'd ended up on my doorstep. But another part knew better. She looked exhausted, like she'd been carrying this for far too long. If you want to talk about it, I said finally, keeping my voice low and even. I'm here, but you don't have to. Sophie glanced up, her eyes meeting mine for the first time since she'd come inside. There was gratitude there, mixed with a deep weariness. She nodded slowly. Thank you, Evan. I don't even know where to start. She took a sip of the tea, wincing slightly as it burned her tongue, then set the mug down. Her hands trembled a little, and she folded them in her lap to steady them. Dave and we've been together for 10 years, married for 8. At first it was good. He was funny, attentive. We'd go on these spontaneous road trips, just pack a bag and drive to the lake or some small town we'd never heard of. But things changed after we bought the house. The mortgage, the bills, it all piled up. He started working longer hours, coming home stressed. Then the drinking started. Little things at first, a beer after work, then more. And with it came the arguments. I leaned against the counter, listening without interrupting. Her words came out in fragments, like she was piecing together a puzzle she'd rather leave scattered. He'd accuse me of things, flirting with the guy at the grocery store, hiding texts on my phone. I'd tell him it wasn't true, but he wouldn't believe me. Tonight was the worst. He found an old receipt from a coffee shop where I met a friend for lunch and he lost it. Said I was seeing someone else. I tried to explain, but he just kept yelling. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my bag and ran. Her voice cracked on the last word and she looked away, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. I felt a pang in my chest, anger at Dave for putting her through this, sympathy for her. I'd seen enough at the shop, guys coming in with stories of their own messed up lives. But hearing it from her, seeing the raw hurt on her face, made it real. I'm sorry, I said softly. That sounds awful. No one should have to deal with that. She shook her head. I keep thinking it'll get better. He'd apologize the next day, promise to change, but it never lasts. I feel like I'm losing myself, Evan, like I'm just existing. I didn't know how to respond. What do you say to that? You deserve better, I ventured. A lot better. She gave a small, bitter laugh. Maybe. But it's hard to see that when you're in the middle of it. She paused, then looked at me again. Why are you being so nice? You barely know me. I shrugged, feeling a bit self-conscious. I guess because I know what it's like to feel alone. My folks split when I was a kid, and I bounced around a bit before settling here. Sometimes all you need is someone to not judge you. Her expression softened, and for the first time that night, a faint smile touched her lips. Thank you, really.